Shenfeld is chief economist at CIBC. Avery, great to have you with us. And I guess I'd like to start with your assessment of the bank's assessment of the overall job that's been doing. Is it fair to say that things are working about as well as you would expect here?
Well, there was some self-congratulatory patting on the back on the part of the Bank of Canada, saying that they and the other measures that the government itself has taken have helped ride to the rescue. But I think that is a fair assessment. We learned a lot of lessons from the financial crisis that hit the U.S. and Europe harder than Canada back in 2008. And even before that, what happened to Japan in 1990. So we had done a lot of bracing our financial system for just this sort of shock. And despite the fact that we entered this crisis with a very high level of household debt and some business sectors carrying a lot of debt, so far so good in the sense that we're not seeing a meltdown in the financial sector. And this isn't just as important for people who work at a bank or own shares in a bank. It's important to prevent a ripple effect on the economy of the kind we saw in Europe, for example, in the last crisis. Because if the financial system gives way, then you get a second downturn in the economy beyond what we were already seeing.
And we did hear that warning, right, from Stephen Poloz that there is this kind of fear of a second leg of the virus, which could create a whole new need for new policies. Let's put a pin in that because nobody really knows, Avery, if that's going to happen. We hope it doesn't. Our behavior may well shape it one way or the other. But in terms of what comes next, should we be turning, and I say we, the central bank, the fiscal policies of the governments, should we be turning our attention and focus to stimulation, away from kind of plugging the holes and shoring things up in this crisis to how do we restart, how do we give actual juice to an economy that's going to need it?
So the problem right now is that it isn't really a case where we don't have income in place. We've actually replaced a lot of the income that people were getting from jobs with income that they're getting from Ottawa. The problem is that people can't spend even if they want to. I'd love to go to a movie tonight, but the theaters are closed. I'd love to go to dinner, but the restaurants are closed. So until we've got the virus under better control so these activities can resume, and we're going to do that very gradually to avoid that big second wave, it means that demand in the economy is still going to be suppressed. So a full recovery for the economy isn't really likely until the disease, is further behind us. And in the meantime, what we're doing is making sure that the financial system can help carry businesses and people through this period where the economy is soft so that we do get better growth later on. I actually think that when we have the disease behind us, we won't need as much stimulus as some are arguing because there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand from the people who did have jobs during this period and haven't been able to spend. And hopefully their spending puts other people to work.
I guess one place that's beginning to be in focus, though, Avery, are the people who have been put out of work because their jobs have shut down, who, as the gradual phased-in reopenings start, may actually make a calculated decision not to work because the government support is more generous than their job. That could be the case is possible for many, many workers out there. And there's this concern that the reopening won't happen as we expect because people will just opt quite rationally to make more by doing nothing. Should the government be keeping that in mind and dialing back programs sooner?
So that's a very tricky balance, and it affects not only individuals, but also some businesses that are getting a 75% wage subsidy as long as their sales are down more than 30% year over year. So maybe I don't want my sales to go to down 25 year over year because then I lose that big subsidy. So there's going to have to be a very carefully dialing down. If anything, the risk may in the near term be the other way. They may have to actually extend some of these programs a little longer if people can't find jobs. But you're absolutely right that there are some tests that are going to have to be applied on some of these benefits. Remember that some will expire and others do have a jobs test. You have to say you've looked for work. And the government right now isn't being too picky about the proof of that because they know, look, 3 million, 4 million jobs have vaporized. There really aren't jobs out there. As jobs start to appear, they will start to, I think, look a little more carefully about who's getting money and whether they really need it. So that is going to be an important issue for them to monitor, whether they need to, A, extend the programs if things stay bad or there's a second wave, but also how to pare back some of these benefits to encourage businesses to grow or people to take jobs if they're available.
Avery Shenfeld, always great to have your thoughts. Appreciate it. Avery Shenfeld is chief economist at CIBC.